Hello and welcome to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. We get curious about all things gender, sex and sexuality, as well as relationships, feminism, the inclusive kind, mental health and kink, and all that makes us humans unique and diverse. From body positivity to body dysmorphia, it's all welcome here. Come with us on a journey of inclusion, acceptance and respect. I'm your host, Esther Lemons. I identify as a cisgender woman and my pronouns are she and her. This episode was created in collaboration with NEACO, which is the Network for East Anglian Collaborative Outreach, and the University of East Anglia for Pride Month 2021. Kit Rackley, whom you may remember from episodes 1 and 12, and myself have a conversation with students Barney, Charlie, Jacob and Ro about their experiences being LGBTQIA+ in higher education. We also talk about fitting in boxes, breaking barriers, finding comfort in anonymity, redefining yourself, looking after your mental health, the importance of asking for help and support, finding yourself as well as your people, and being who you are meant to be. It was recorded on the 3rd of June 2021. Before we get into the episode, here is a short disclaimer from Kit.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast episode are those of the guests and should not be considered as professional advice. While this podcast episode of 50 Shades of Gender, number 49, released on the 17th of June 2021, is intended for young listeners of high school age and contains age-appropriate content, listener discretion is advised for other episodes of the series as some themes and discussions are adult in nature. NEACO Take Your Place and its partners have no affiliation with this podcast series beyond this episode created in partnership for the Pride in Higher Aspirations 2021 project.
I just want to say hello and welcome to everyone today. This is really exciting, and I'll hand over to Kit to talk to us a little bit about why they put this episode. I wanted to put this episode together, so just putting you on the spot, Kit. Go.
And people out there are like, oh no, not them again. Yes, everybody, this is the third time on Esther's podcast, but I am here for business purposes rather than for personal purposes, and that is through my job role. Yeah, so I have recently taken on a new role at the University of East Anglia, something I've been very, very proud about, and that is outreach officer and higher education champion for underprivileged and disadvantaged students around the east of England. And of course, being LGBTQ myself, I thought, right, what kind of project can I bring to this role? And I thought, well, let's raise some aspirations within LGBTQ youth, because there are so many amazing role models out there, LGBTQ role models who've been through higher education. I thought, why not showcase all that lovely stuff for Pride Month? So what did I do? Got into contact with you, Esther, and thought, your podcast would be an amazing contribution to this month-long project. And we have some fabulous students at the University of East Anglia. Put two and two together, and here we are.
Yay! This is very exciting.
So I guess if you want to keep contact with all this, we are using the hashtag #TakeYourPride, HE, and the project is called Pride in Higher Aspirations. So if you want to follow it, that's all we need to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Kit. So, over to the guests today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you and your, well, basically, mostly your gender identity, really, the labels you use, the pronouns you use? Who would like to start?
I'm happy to jump straight in. Hi, everybody. So
Nice
I'm
one.
Ro. I'm a final year, actually. I've just graduated. I'm non-binary. I go by the pronouns they, them. And I've been non-binary for about a few years now. I found the label about a few years ago, but for a very long time I did feel, I don't quite fit in the female box, but I don't really want to be in the male box. So where do I belong? So I'm non-binary and I'm loving it.
Yay! That should be on a t-shirt, non-binary and loving it. Nice one. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Barney. My pronouns are he, him, and I identify as a trans man. I've known for quite a long time, but haven't been able to sort of come out and live as a man until maybe a couple of years ago when I moved into higher education. So that's just really nice to kind of be living, as I am. I'm currently a first year creative writing and English lit student at UEA, and yeah, it's great.
Nice one. Welcome.
My name is Jacob. I use the pronouns they, them, and I normally identify as non-binary as well. So I'm a first year student studying international relations and French here at UEA. And It's been interesting because I've been trying to explore more everything, and I feel like coming to university, the freedom that's given, but also just like the people I've met has given me a real opportunity to be myself and be able to experiment. And there's a lot of like extracurricular stuff I've done which has really helped with that. So yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
I'm Charlie. I identify as a queer woman. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm same as Barney. I'm a creative writing student, but I'm second year.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for chatting with us today. So my first question to you, and feel free to jump in, whenever you feel like it, or sit one out. That's fine too. Did going to higher education help you explore and nurture your identity, your gender identity especially? And if so, how?
Yeah. So I was like through sixth form, I was trying to explore and I was starting to get to explore more, and it felt like there was a lot of stuff that might be holding me back, like the opportunity to do it. And I feel like since I've come to university, I've had a lot more freedom to explore, a lot more chances, because I've always like felt like I kind of don't want people to see everything straight away. Like, I want to take it gradually, and being at university, having more privacy than I would generally at home has enabled me to do it more. And I think one of the things that's really helps is that I have some of my flatmates are the best people I've ever met and are so helpful and so lovely. And just being able to just wear what I want, be who I want, something that I would never have thought would happen until I came to university. So yeah, I think it's really helped me explore. And I think I've improved. I've become a slightly better person because of it, because I can be me instead of being almost scared to do it in a sense.
Wow, I love that. Thank you.
I can kind of bounce off something. It kind of that privacy is like a huge thing, but also kind of being coming to like university and being in higher education. I was fortunate enough to kind of be able to step away from North Yorkshire, where I'm from originally, and go to a completely different location where nobody knew me, and so kind of being a kind of fresh face, a new person, brings a lot of privacy in that you can show exactly what you want to show. You can portray yourself exactly as who you want to portray yourself. And also the maturity, I think, not just for myself, but I think, whenever you move into higher education, there's this huge step you need to take. You're forced to become a lot more mature. And I think within that, you kind of have to shed all that. Not all of it, sadly, some people don't, but you have to shed a lot of the kind of silly notions, sort of anti-LGBTQIA notions that a lot of people had before, and they're kind of, with that maturity, there's a acceptance, which is really great. Like in secondary school, there's a lot of ridiculousness that people hold on to, but it melts away. Some of it melts away in higher education.
Yeah,
I think there's sometimes sort of a bit of a thing about when you go to uni, about finding yourself, and people are like, oh, you'll go to university and you'll find yourself. And my family, when I said I was going, they were like, you'll find yourself.
Very cliche.
Sounds like a retreat. It's really not that glamorous.
Wow. Yeah, it does. I was going to say, I haven't found myself yet. I'm still working on it myself.
And I think more of this sort of ability to go into this area with people who don't have any presumptions about you, and you are able to sort of then build from a bit of the ground up. And I think there's a lot of thing about queer people, especially sort of like blossoming a little bit later sometimes as we work out who we are, rather than fit in the box that society is telling us to. And I think it's definitely for me been an experience at university where I've been able to say, there aren't people here presuming I'm straight. There aren't people here presuming that I'm cis or anything. And you're able to really say, this is who I am, without the presumption, which is amazing.
Just jumping on that, it's I think we've all highlighted exactly what a lot of us have struggled with. At school, you are fit in that predefined box depending on what you look like. You're a nerdy kid, you're a jock, you're a popular girl. And no matter what you do to try and break those boundaries, you're put in that box, you're put in that friend group, and you can't do anything against it. And so as soon as you come into university, where a lot of these boxes dissolve, and you suddenly realise my appearance does not define the friends that I want to make and the groups that I want to fit in, it's just wonderful. I know at university, at school even, I was in the group of the weird girls, and I love weird, and I think the weird people are the best people in the world. But I Yeah, I can see Charlie raising a hand. It's just, that was a wonderful feeling. Yeah, it's just, the weird is the best kind of people, right? But I think coming to university and finding that I can be friends with guys and I can fit in the guy group, the lad group, and just knowing that it's okay just because I look rather feminine. I don't have to fit in that box that I was told to anymore. And it is so freeing to kind of break those barriers and choose where you fit in.
I just want to pick up on a few things there, because I'm having like an exceptionally feminine day today, and it's completely because as Esther knows, I'm gender fluid to an extent, and
you look beautiful.
Oh, bless you. And it's just so lovely. I mean, we're all kind of demonstrating right here the kind of the culture and the community that you can surround yourself at places like higher education. Like, I'm completely happy to just be completely myself right here. And there's two things that really kind of put them to my mind, because of course I've spoken to a lot of people for this project, and this sense of the anonymity seems to have come up quite a fair bit. The fact that that's actually a lot of people have found comfort in that. And so, yeah, that's really, really interesting. And I'm thinking of back in when I was in school now in the 80s and 90s, don't hold it against me, because I'm a bit older than all you lot, it seems as though some things have moved on quite a bit in some places. And there are some schools around here in Norfolk and Suffolk who are amazing with their LGBTQ inclusivity. But it seems like there are still issues out there in high school. I mean, I don't want anyone to kind of disclose too much personal information, but maybe even you just want to give something very, very very, very arbitrary, like, oh, my experience at university is way different from high school. It's a little bit better than high school. High school was pretty okay for me. I mean, it'd be quite interesting to hear what comparative for you, your high school experience is with your higher education experience, really.
I was intrigued to ask, if anybody else was the bullied kid at school, because I certainly was, and I fit into very few boxes. I'm non-binary, I'm pansexual, I'm autistic, I have ADHD, and I just didn't fit in at all. And school is very much, what you're told. You sit down, you listen to the teacher, you sit with your friend groups at lunch, and that's how it is. And I didn't feel like myself at school. I just felt like somebody else in a uniform. And then you come to university and they say, no, you choose what you want to do. You choose your friends, you choose your clubs, your societies, you choose what music and what events you go to. And you can just completely redefine yourself, and you're not putting that uniform in those boxes anymore. You're very much saying, no, you be you. And that is celebrated here. And it's the best experience for me.
I really love that, because I grew up in the Netherlands and we don't do the school uniform thing. So that was kind of alien for me.
Well, it's a very UK thing, because I know people in other countries, in France as well, they don't wear school uniforms. In America, a lot. But yeah, no, I completely get what Rose was saying about how being in the uniform. Yeah, I was bullied for about 3 years in secondary school, but it kind of came about because I wasn't the same as everyone else. I went to a school where they had feeder school, so everyone already had their friendship group. Everyone already knew all of their friends. So like I joined and I wasn't part of the groups in a sense, and it kind of almost just backfired in a sense that it just never really fit in. And I was never really like part of the lads. I was not one of those people who play sports who would get into like go being like in tackles and stuff, playing football. Yeah, it was a really tough experience to go through that, because I was still trying to figure out who I was and what kind of box I fit into. And as people said already, it doesn't quite work the same way in secondary or high school that it does here at higher education. And then, as soon as I left, I moved to a different school to do my A levels, and that was completely different. It was a much better experience. Then again, moving on to university, one of the first things I did was join the drama society. And one of the I see Charlie smiling now. One of the great things about it was that it's like a place to be yourself. Like I could be who I wanted to be, and I think a lot of that is down to the people, like the kind of way they set out the whole society and how welcoming it is for everyone. I think that's been a really good experience, and particularly being in Spring Awakening with everyone was just amazing.
I love it. Barney, what would you like to add?
So when I went to high school or secondary school, I actually went to an all-girls school. I mean, as definitely was not the place for me. I sadly wasn't in a position to it just wasn't, I couldn't transfer basically that easily for various reasons. But that in itself kind of had a lot of constrictions on my gender, in that I couldn't express myself as a man. I'm not sure what would have happened if I did. I don't know if I'd be allowed to go there, but I just wasn't in a position socially to be able to come out. So that in itself was really difficult, and I kind of had to rely a lot on my quite an intrinsic sense of worth. Is intrinsic the right word? I had to learn how to kind of value myself regardless of outside validation, because obviously, going to school every day, wearing a skirt every day, being called a lady or whatever every day is not is really not that great if you experience dysphoria, which was a huge part of the school life. So being able to move away from that was just so refreshing. It was just a really important thing for me. So like even in halls, just being able to be able to mingle with people who aren't all of one gender, particularly the one which you're trying to break away from, was just a really important thing for my well-being. And it took a lot of the pressure off myself because there's a lot of pressure kind of reaffirming your identity every day, being like, it's okay that they're calling you miss, but you're a mister and it's okay. It's just a huge breath of release to be able to is that the word? Relief. It's huge. A huge sigh of relief to be able to just be, I don't have to deal with that anymore. Because that was a really difficult thing, which I think probably there's quite a few people who have to deal with that and who aren't in a situation where they can move away from it. It's not always easy.
That does sound really hard, and I wondered actually if you had any advice, because I'm thankful not to have that same experience. That sounded incredibly intense and something that obviously you couldn't break away from at all. And although I think a lot of us might be lucky that we don't experience that much intensity in day-to-day life, obviously a lot of us still have those questions. Even when we go to the toilet, it's usually male or female, and a lot of us will be, I mean, for me, for example, I'm still very feminine presenting, and even though I want to sometimes go in the male toilets, you can't. And it is that, you walk through that door and you automatically are saying to everybody loud and clear, don't worry about my pronouns, my labels. Actually, I'm still a woman. I have woman genitals, and that makes me a woman. And so I wondered if you had any advice on how to cope with that kind of affirmation from like the external world that says, no, you're in this box, whether you like it or not, essentially.
Well, I found writing really helps, because even when when you write, I guess you can hear yourself speak, but when someone reads it off a page, there's no kind of masculine or feminine. There's no pitch to it. It's whoever you present yourself on paper as, which was a really important thing to me, because I'll be like, it's something that doesn't get filtered through your biology. It's something that just comes from you artistically. So being able to do that was a really important, a huge part of me kind of, being okay, really. And I guess kind of, as I say, kind of reaffirming to myself, I guess being like, it's okay, you are still a guy, regardless of what situation these people are, putting you in. It's really difficult, because you see a kind of childhood that's kind of going off in a different direction to what you want, to where you are. And it's really difficult to kind of watch that move away from you. So I guess taking time for yourself is really important. Like, as a society, everyone's like, no, you've got to be constantly on the go, and taking time out for yourself is selfish. But it's really important just to be like, no, it's okay, this is me, this is my time, and finding a way to kind of express yourself that isn't constricted by these exterior things, which is all very abstract. And probably I know it's far easier to say all this now when I'm in a far easier situation, but just kind of keeping on believing that it won't be forever is a really important thing. Yeah, I'm afraid I can't really say much more.
I think it also varies depending on different people in different situations. I've been exploring a bit, and like people said to me, write it down, it will help, or just like record something somewhere, do some drawing, play some music, play some games, whatever it is, something to like just take yourself out of it, take yourself out of a situation, just think about it. And I think one of the things I've been thinking about recently is it's never going to be an easy decision to make, whatever the decision is. It's never going to be like a click and that's it, and that. I think the fact that there are people out there who've thought long and hard about this, have made decisions for the better of themselves, it's really commendable in a sense. But also, it's really hard to go from an experience where you're like, this is not me, I don't fit in here, to then looking ahead, like opening a door and seeing a field in front of you, so to speak, that you can be yourself, you can just be who you want to be. And I think university is almost like an open field, because unless you actually know people, I'm very fortunate to know very few people from before, in a sense that I can now be who I want to be at university as opposed to who I was back in school and back in sixth form. It's really freeing, but it's also like, I could go up to someone I've never met and I could be like, hi, this is my name, these are my pronouns, and that would be it, and that's all they know about me, and it's really amazing in a sense. It is different for everyone else, so I feel like it write it down might work for you. There might be something else. It might even be punching bag or something, just to give you a sense to get out of the anger, but also just to think. I quite like just going on walks. For me, like I'm very near the lake where I live currently on campus. I just like walking around the lake with some music on my ears, just thinking, taking a slow walk, and that really helps me clear my mind.
All this resonates, and with higher education and any higher education establishments, there are ones that are better than others. UEA is very, very progressive. We know that UEA has things that they need to work on and that they're aware of as well. But I think what we want to do to young people listening, of course, is make sure that they're aware of is that no higher education establishment is like a complete utopia of safety and, acceptance, because you have such a range of individuals who will come with their own baggage, their own backgrounds, their own misunderstandings, their own misconceptions. But what university does do for you, as you're all demonstrating, as you're all talking about, is that it enables you to build those traits of resilience. It helps you to build those connections, those community links, and to explore your identity in a safe manner, that when you do have issues with an individual, with a circumstance that may bring you back to what it was like when you were younger, you are now more in charge of the situation. You're now more resilient to deal with the situation, and you've got support network around you, whereas in the past you may not have done. So, because we're very, very keen, of course, not to say that go to university and all your ills will be solved, because, of course, going to university has its own pressures as well. So, but yeah, it's really lovely to hear what everyone's saying, and yeah, I definitely will echo what Jacob just said about walking around the Broad. As something I used to absolutely adore doing when I was at UEA, and such a beautiful, beautiful campus.
Lots of dogs help.
Yeah.
I've encountered so many dogs on my. It was yesterday. I went for a walk on a lake. I needed to get out my flat, and this dog comes up to me and starts jumping at me. And I'm a massive. I love dogs. I used to have a dog until earlier this year, and just seeing that dog being so playful and having such a good time, it made me really happy. Obviously, yeah, I want to agree with Kate. I wasn't saying that it solves all problems, because I've had there have been some definite things here and in other places that haven't necessarily been as good as I would have wanted it to. But as a general, it is a place that you can be. You can redefine yourself in a sense. But no, I've definitely had other problems, not to do with like LGBTQ plus stuff that I wouldn't have thought about before.
The fire alarm going off at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah, I was thinking, moving on from there, how do you deal with challenges that come up, and how do you take care of your mental health and get support when you need it? Do you have any wisdom to share on that?
I think so. I came into university with anxiety and depression, and I feel great to kind of announce that, although that's still a part of my life, it's nowhere near as bad as it was. But I think a lot of universities are notorious for not the most amazing mental health support, whether it's because they're underfunded or they're built up, or there's just not that kind of level of care that the university should be providing. And my biggest tip is to be the biggest pain in the ass that you can be. I know my local hub, which, I know my hub, which kind of manages kind of coursework deadlines and whatnot. They know me off by heart. As soon as I pick up the phone, they go, "Oh, hi, Ro. Yep, it's you again." And it's awful that you need to be putting yourself into that position. And I can completely appreciate not everybody has that confidence or those skills to be loud and annoying. But unfortunately, I think apart from the other friend groups and the peer groups that you have to rely on, generally you need to be loud and in their face, and you need to make a point of it, because until you do, they're just going to dismiss you as somebody else that maybe isn't managing the deadlines very well.
Yeah, as Rose says, it's not always easy to access kind of uni healthcare, or also kind of with healthcare with your doctors anyway. Like, waiting lists for everything are just horribly long, and so it's really tough kind of being faced with these issues, and then being faced with, having to be told that literally being put on hold. So I think also kind of reaching out to kind of friends, like building a network of friends who you feel comfortable talking to and are comfortable kind of hearing this sort of thing, like, mutually respecting each other's boundaries when you talk about this sort of thing, but also just being able to kind of be like, can we talk about something? I'm just not feeling great. And or just, sitting with people and just being around people. I know for me that really helps. Some people prefer to have their own space, which is also really important. So I guess it's kind of also socially finding what nurtures you the best socially, and kind of having safety net sounds very, it doesn't sound as nice as it is meant to be. Kind of knowing you have people to talk to and having the kind of comfort to be able to do so is a really important thing, though it does take quite a long time to get there, when we're told our whole lives, like, no, you're not allowed to talk about this sort of thing. No, we just get on with it, sort of thing. It's like it's okay to, like, not get on with it. It's like you need to talk about this sort of thing. It's really important. So yeah, as Rose says, being vocal about it is just
Yeah, and I think this goes back to sort of what we've said a couple of times now, and has come up a couple of times. It's that coming to university, coming into higher education, and being able to choose and find your people. And these are the people that are going to help you work out who you are, developing yourself within the queer community and all of that. But it's also going to be the people who are looking after you, listening to you, comforting you when you're having those troubled times, or helping you, be more vocal if that's something you struggle with, or sitting with you if you're having a tough day, or whatever it is. It's those people who you have found since uni. And I know that I've become so close with so many incredible people at university, and I've been able to choose them, knowing that they are going to accept me for who I am. Queer, loud, sweary, all over the place, disorganized, whatever it is, and they're just going to turn around and go, yeah, all right, Charlie, what's this now? What are we doing now? Okay. And they're just going to accept me. And that's one of the best things about coming to uni, is being able to find those people.
I would add to all this, I think universities do need to do a better job of not just providing mental health services, but signposting what else you can do if they're so stretched as well. So that kind of soft help and advice as well, like, where do you find comfort and things like that, which can be very helpful in itself. And kids who are listening to this, when I was teaching high school with 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds in particular, what they tended to do is that if they had an approachable teacher or member of staff, they would naturally seek those out and find an ally within members of staff. And a follow-up question I'd probably like to ask you is that, if you've found official services, maybe even the student union services wanting, have you come across a member of staff, a lecturer, a postgraduate, helper, or whatever, who you've just been able to talk to and say, look, I've just struggling a little bit here. Do you have any support, any help and advice? Do you have a sympathetic ear in the faculty?
Could I go back to the thing before about, there was a period in around February, March, where I had a pretty rough time because of stuff outside of university. So I went home about 3 times within a period of a month, and it got really rough. I had a speaking test for French. I had it on in the afternoon, and I had the seminar that morning, and I broke down in that seminar. I had to leave. And I won't say that I've handled my mental health the whole year round really well. It's not true. I'm not going to lie to you. At times it has been pretty rough. But I have specifically 2 of my flatmates who I know that if they're free, they're always there to talk to me. So when I broke down after that seminar, one of my flatmates just took me out on the Beryl scooters. So it's the first time I've been, and it was just a nice break from the whole thing. And I've been feeling pretty rough for a few days, and that just really helped. And I spoke to them so many times about different things, and just them being there to talk. They might not have all the answers. They might not be able to help in any way, but just being able to vent to them in a sense has been really, really helpful. And I think it's not to do with the university as a whole, but being a part of Spring Awakening that time and having to take that time off, and just the fact that when I needed to, they said absolutely, and they moved everything around me, so I had that time off that I needed. But then as soon as I was back, straight back into it, and accepting that it might not be straight away, it might not be at the same level I was before I had to go. We would build up, and we created an amazing film. And the whole thing about I have the people who run it. So Charlie was included in this. I have a special place in my heart because they were so good to me in that period. And I had messages from people saying, "I hope you're doing it." People checking on me, and it really, really made a difference because that was a really rough period, and I'm glad I come through it. But that really even people checking on you, people just asking you, "Are you okay?" And whether you say you're fine or not, I mean, I wasn't feeling great a couple of days ago, but people just hugged me, and immediately I just felt just that little bit better. I think those people around you, whether they know what they're talking about, or whether they don't, but just being there, just being that person to talk to, giving you that hug, just being with you in the tough time, it really, really makes a massive difference in small ways.
I love that, and it's nice to hear that you can get a lot of support from like even small gestures, like let's have a hug. You know, how difficult is that? I mean, it's difficult for some people, and not everyone likes it, and that's fair. But you know, you don't have to sit down with someone and like, you know, talk for hours and feel really, you know, obliged to do something for them. Just something as simple as a hug, or just saying, "I feel you." You know, everything's going to be all right. I don't know. It's just so important. Yeah,
I completely echo that. I think the hardest thing about having a friendship and being brave enough to expose yourself, you know, and say, look, I'm really struggling, to a friend, or be in a position where you're helping a friend who's really struggling. The hardest thing is, what do I do here? And I've always found just saying, what do you need, is the easiest way of going about it, because then, like you say, you're not throwing anybody into a deep conversation, because somebody might just say, look, can you just come round and watch a movie with me? Can I have a cuddle? Can you just pick up some milk from the shops? And sometimes it is those little things. And I think, I don't know about anybody else, but I think the biggest, scariest thing is always how it's all well and good knowing that I have friends that will be there for me to the end of the earth. But how do I actually say, I need help? You know, how am I brave enough to say, I'm having a really hard time? And two things that I always hold on to. One is, it is basic human requirements to be there for somebody, to look after somebody, because you would do the same. And so you should never, ever feel guilty about asking for something or needing something from somebody. Yeah.
That is such a good point. And I think we're all so reluctant. I think a lot of us are really reluctant to ask for help because we don't want to be a burden, and we're meant to deal with our own stuff and, you know, all that stuff. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So important.
And another thing that keeps me going is thinking, you know, I put it in the context of weather. You know, everybody, for example, depression, right? You know, depression is a big, frightening thing. But one of its big symptoms, say for me, was having very sad days. But everybody experiences sadness on some level. And so everybody can relate to what sad is like and what needs to happen when you're feeling sad. So when it's raining, you wouldn't go up to somebody and say, okay, we need to understand the weather behind the rain. What's formed the clouds? What does depression mean? You would just go, okay, it's raining. What do? We get an umbrella. We get some blankets out. We go indoors, you know? And so you never need to feel pressured to explain or justify yourself to somebody. You just need to express, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. I'm struggling. And everybody knows that feeling to whatever level.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I love that. Jacob?
Yeah, so talk about mental health and like people not wanting to ask. I mean, I'm guilty of that many times when I trying to like soldier, particularly when I was being bullied. I just soldiered. I didn't talk to them. I just soldiered on through. And I think one of the things that I've experienced being how I am, like the whole thing about stigma about mental health, and the whole thing of like, while I was trying to discover who I was, the whole thing of being like, I don't know I don't know if I can talk to anyone about it. I feel like people would ridicule me for coming up to someone and be like, I need to talk about this. I need to discuss this. I think a lot of the time, I mean, I'm still not the best at asking for help when I need it. And I think my parents, but I'm not. My parents do bang on. They'll be like, to work specifically, but like, if I need help with work, just go after it. I want to be self-sufficient in the sense I want to be able to do it all myself. And I know that at times I can't, and at times I try to do the best I can, but it doesn't always end up working, and I have to ask for help. And particularly just not wanting to or not feeling able to. I think one of the things that's important, if you feel like you need to talk to someone, and Rose said this very well, much better than I'm going to say it because I'm awful with my words half the time, but if you need help, no one's going to judge you any differently. They are probably going to respect you even more for doing it because it's such a hard thing to do. But if you need help, do ask for it because it is so good to talk about it. It's so good to get it off your chest.
Totally. And I think those were great words, Jacob. So, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Kit.
Yeah, and to add to that, actually to do a little bit of my job now in a sense, when you put your things down on the UCAS form and you have your conditional offer accepted or whatever it is, when you get your acceptances come through and your offers come through from university, and you go through the process of giving your further details with regards to giving your university that you've chosen the details or not, a lot of universities do have a way for you to disclose any issues, disabilities, kind of needs that you have. And a lot of them now are really, really saying, putting like including mental health. And this is where it's so important that if you have struggled with mental health issues or you've got anxiety, I mean, I suffer from depression myself. If I had the chance to disclose that in confidence to the university in advance by ticking a box, then the university can, make sure that you are aware of all the services and things that are available. And then the student union can get anonymized statistics to say, we've got a cohort coming in which have been particularly affected by mental health. Crikey, everyone, you youngsters listening have just been through this pandemic, bless you, and fantastic job for getting through it. But you're going to take all the resilience you've built up from that, but also all of the challenges and the baggage have got to come from that into further and higher education. So do take advantage of that when universities turn around and say, do you need to disclose anything? We need to know, because if the student union picks up that you've got a large cohort of people that have got mental health issues coming into university, they're going to be pressuring the university on your behalf to say, look, we've got to have these people supported. So do disclose that. Universities abide by data protection rule. Anything you disclose on that form when you start university will not be shared with anyone else without your explicit consent. So that's just a bit of professional advice that I would give there.
Just to add to that, I'm quite interested where that goes, because I remember I had that option when filling out my form all that time ago, and that was when my mental health was particularly really loud for me. And I remember saying, Mum, do I tick and do I say this? And she said, I wouldn't, because you're not disabled. You don't have a wheelchair. You don't have extra needs. You just have, your bad days. And I really regret not saying back then and there, actually, part of disability is mental health. It is something that affects you day to day. So is there anything you could say to encourage young people to actually say, yes, I have mental health, and to know that that's not just a tick box? It might go somewhere. It might do something for them, Kit.
Yeah. If in doubt, put it down. If in doubt, you put it down, because it's better to put something down and then for the university to contact you to say, you put this down, here are some support, things like that. And then you will use that information whether you so wish or not. So if you think I really shouldn't have put that down, the worst that'll happen is that you'll get a few bit more information about what support that's available to you, and then you can ask to say, actually, these services are not for me. Could you take me off the mailing list or the register for whatever that? So if in doubt, put it down. And it's fantastic that more and more people, all of you have been so lovely and vulnerable about what you're talking about right now. And you are demonstrating such strong positive behavior when it comes to these issues of mental health. And this should be empowering youngsters to turn and say that this is a normal human thing. I mean, I could talk about climate anxiety, for example, me and Ro could go on that like all day because of our, expertise in environmental science and whatnot. But more children are now becoming aware of that kind of stuff. And so if you are suffering from that, don't dismiss it and say, oh, it's not an important thing. Yes, it's important to you. It's important to you. Put it down. It is a disability. Poor mental health is a disability because it prevents you from doing certain tasks. It prevents you from enjoying life the way you want to enjoy life. It may prevent you from, and here's the key thing, it may prevent you from getting the best out of yourself in your degree and in your study. It's a disability. Put it down. There are far, far, far more invisible disabilities than there are visible disabilities. They're all as valid as each other. So don't put yourself down and think that, you're lesser than anyone else because you have these issues and you don't want to disclose them. So, I mean, have you ever talked to a teacher about I'm struggling or I need this help? Have you ever gone to the school counsellor? Have you ever spoken to mum, dad, gran, guardian, carer, whoever about the issues that you've had? If that's true, then you don't have to have a doctor's diagnosis of anxiety or depression. You may have had some mental health difficulties. And if it's impacted your daily life and your school studies, it is worth mentioning on your form. No one is going to judge you for it. And the last thing, I know I'm taking a lot of time here, but I just want to emphasize one last thing as well, is that it is totally the university's responsibility to support you. Totally. So by me saying, by you lot not putting it down on your form, the university is not going to be supporting you because they don't think as many of you, because to me that wrongly come across as victim blaming, right? So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that university should be putting these in place anyway. It just needs to make sure that you're aware and you're aware of the support that is there. And then that the university should step up to the plate in response.
That makes a lot of sense, Kit, because the more people ask for it, the more normal it's going to become and the more help is going to be available. And also you made a really great point of saying, we minimize our own issues a lot, and we feel like we have to deal with it ourselves or that we have to snap out of it and stuff. And it's a really vulnerable thing to actually say, I have issues with this and I'm struggling and I'm really struggling. That's really important. Charlie.
Yeah, I think one thing as well to add, just for anyone who is approaching these forms, because there will be a lot of forms that you're asked to fill in and you'll have to say a lot of things about yourself. It's not entirely definitive. You will be given the option to change it. I know when I was faced with these forms, they do ask you to tick a lot of boxes or to say, I am this or I'm not this definitively. And there were a lot of things where, like Kit was saying, I wasn't quite sure, what to put down for gender identity, sexuality, mental health, any of those boxes. Where do I fit into this? Because I'm definitely still discovering that. But you are given the option every year to refill it out, and you are also able to access those and contact people to change them if you would like to. But like Kit says, they are just there so that you can be helped. They're not there for someone to put you in a corner and go, right, the gay's over this side, the mentally ill over that side. It's not like that at all. It's all there for support completely. Although a corner of gay people is brilliant, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Ro, Barney and myself are good examples of that, because if you send us an email on the UEA system, there are some things that can change, can't change, but they come up with our preferred names, with our actual names, the names we identify with. It doesn't come up with my legal name, and I have to type in Barney, and there's Barney. I can email Barney, yay, and then email Ro, and then people type in Kit, and they can email me. So, universities have those kind of procedures and things.
Yeah. Barney.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, kind of furthering on from what you said, Kit, about making your preferred name known on the system. I didn't realise that I never got around to doing this sort of procedure until I think only earlier on this term, earlier on this semester. But still, even I can't actually change my official name. I'll need to have a deed poll, I believe, for that. So that is, that's an annoying load more forms and a little bit to pay before that, which is
still a long way to go.
It's not quite there yet, but we're getting there. But also, kind of beyond the systems that the uni has, I found it really useful just to email my tutors before my seminars going, hi, it may not be what's on the system, but this is the name I go by and these are my pronouns. And all of my tutors were like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's perfectly okay. And they really respected that. And so I just kind of want to put it out there in case people don't have that option, or it's really difficult to do, because I'm not particularly tech savvy. I was quite bewildered by the process of It was a simple email essentially to the office, but I've tried it before and it didn't quite work. So just telling people and letting them know if you feel comfortable doing that really makes a difference, because hearing your actual name when you're studying a subject that you love is just the most enriching experience, and yeah, it's just great. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Jacob?
Yeah, so thank you for that, Barney. I did not know you can do that, and that is something I might have to do. So that's very interesting, though. But I haven't done it like towards university, but to my friends, like the ones who know, like I've been like, I prefer these are my preferred pronouns. Could you call it this name that I prefer? And I'm just like, it works. Like obviously, it's not to do with like the university, but like I message my friends, and every time I see the name that I prefer to use, it makes me smile. And so, like, it's one of those things. Like, obviously, I haven't had it to the university experience, but I had one in-person lecture at the end of term after a whole year of basically being online the whole time, sitting in my room as I'm doing now with my laptop in front of me, speaking into the computer, which I've done an awful lot this year, which I never thought I'd have to do this much. To know that there are lots of people here at uni who are accepting, who will, if you ask them to do, like call you by a specific name or to use certain pronouns. My flatmates now all use the pronouns that I prefer. It's really nice. I mean, I was doing Spring Awakening again. I'm going to keep going back to this because it's a great example for everything LGBTQ+. I was in a rehearsal. I joined early, and two people were talking, and they used the pronouns that I said I preferred, and it made me feel, I want to say validated, but that's probably not the right word. But like, there's a feeling of people using what you want instead of hearing them using the wrong pronouns or the wrong name, whether they know it or not. It's that feeling inside, like you're accepted for who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really tried to get that before uni, but now I've got it. I'm kind of like searching for it everywhere. Like I want to feel that again, because it's such a good feeling. It's such a to be able to be yourself instead of hiding. It feels so good. It feels so liberating.
Yeah, and it sounds like what I've heard a lot of people say. Just small gestures like using the right pronouns can be so affirming for people, and it can give them real gender euphoria. That's really great.
Yeah, just to
Ro?
echo that, it is like the best feeling in the world. I started uni with one name, and I think I tried out about 2 or 3 names before I settled on Ro. And I think the way in which I went about that is I firstly just trialed different names with some friends. I might have practiced it a few times in the mirror, just kind of saying, oh, hi, my name is this, and just kind of getting used to it and working it out. There's some online forums which you can join. There's a non-binary page that I join on Facebook, and you can kind of put on some pictures of yourself and describe yourself and say, hey, what kind of names do you think would suit me? And just try and work it out from there. And once I had settled on my name, Ro, there was new friends, which I didn't have to explain things to, because all they knew me was Ro, and that is the best feeling in the world. But with old friends, and particularly lecturers and some advisors that knew me as my legal name, that was quite scary, quite intimidating, because it is that transition process, and especially for lecturers who know you on a bit more of a professional level. But I found the best way I went about it was I just changed it in my email. I would change my sign off to Ro, and then underneath it I might explain and just say I've now changed my name, and I now use these pronouns, and I put in a few web links to explain what non-binary means and what pronouns mean. And the transition was incredibly easy. I think it's probably something that lecturers have faced many times before, and the amount of times I've heard a lecture and the lecturer's gone, oh, Rose just said something, she's, and gone, oh, sorry, I meant they. And it is just the best feeling. And I do work hard to then send them a little email afterwards just saying thank you. Yeah, it's an incredibly welcoming environment most of the time.
Oh, that's so great. Jacob?
Yeah, so as follow up from, I have a question about like internet stuff. So I created an Instagram account, and I've made lots of friends on that Instagram account who I speak to pretty much every day, who know me by the name I want to be known, and that's it. And it's quite nice, like, because I'll see that, I'll go on my phone in the morning, I'll see a message from them, and that's how they know me, and it's that sense of support. I was gonna ask, but I had like, I think 3 names I've been through before I settled on the one I currently like. I was asked how many names you've just gone through trying to find the name that suits you the best.
For me, I think I went through one other official name, and I kind of put it out on Facebook, I think I did it on Instagram because that's where all my friends are. And then someone came up to me with a new name and went, "Oh, hi, I think it was Leo. How are you doing?" And I went, and I just instantly did not like it. But other than that, I just played around by myself. I looked up a lot of like baby names for like gender neutral baby names, male baby names. That was a really good go-to place. I also find kind of like book characters' names usually quite whimsical as well. And I just tried a lot of different abbreviations, but I do have a funny story. Lots of people go, "Oh my gosh, what does Rome mean? What does it stand for?" And I think I'd like to be brave one day and kind of say something like Robert, because that would be quite disjointing because I'm quite feminine presenting, or coronavirus, again, something quite strange. But instead I end up giving...
Please do that. Please just go. Someone else has wrote it's coronavirus.
One day I will be brave. At the moment,
Oh, no, dear.
yeah.
Originally, I thought it was like the tree,
I didn't
like the
know
road
that.
tree. I mean, joke to coronavirus. It was a football game, first football game after the first lockdown. The first goal was scored by a guy called Jesus Corona.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Which
Oh my
I
goodness.
think is one of the greatest things I've ever read anywhere. Just talk about Corona and everything. I was going to say, I think COVID and the whole lockdown has helped me a lot as well. I cross-dress sometimes, and I went out for the first time dressed up. I've been around Norwich. So I went into Norwich like a couple of weeks ago for the first time, which was absolutely crazy. And other times just been on campus and stuff. But that lockdown has helped a lot in that sense. But yeah, no, back to the name thing. Sorry, I just had to interject with that. I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah. Right. Did you want to finish with the last question, Kit?
Let's start with Charlie on this one. So you are currently doing what you're doing. So you're doing, creative writing, literature and stuff like that. And that's what's cool about that industry, is that there's quite a bit of queer representation and whatnot. But if you were to speak to your 13-year-old self, Charlie, what advice would you give them if they wanted to aspire to be the next creative arts big thing, or to showcase their talent around the world, or to be involved in literature, whatever it is, whatever you're doing this degree for? What would you say to your 13-year-old self about why it's important that they should continue with this dream and end up going to university, especially if they're an LGBTQ individual?
I think 13-year-old me was trying real hard to fit in. And, like we were kind of talking about earlier, I went to an all-girls school, and we theoretically were offered skirts or trousers, but one person wore trousers once and got bullied so badly they left the school. So it was very much a skirts-only situation. And, there was very much this box you had to fit into. And I was, really struggling to come to terms with the fact that I was queer and that I wasn't going to fit into this box. And it was never going to happen for me. And I think coming to terms with loving that about myself and being able to use that in my writing and being able to communicate that, I think is really important. Like this whole project is about, is being able to say to other people, I didn't know who I was, I'm coming to terms with it, and I'm communicating it creatively, is so much about what my degree is good for. That was good words. Just being yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm love envisaging seeing these as 13-year-olds, because of course my background as a high school teacher, I'm like, oh, if I could only have had these 4 in my class right now, they'll be so cool. I'd be like, come hang out with me at lunchtime. Right, anyway, enough about me. Okay, so Charlie, why don't you pick on someone to take that question next?
Go for it, Barney. Another creative writer.
I mean, writing, I'm in a fantastic place right now. Like I'm writing, which is like what I've always wanted to do. I was always told, no, you can't, no, just don't, no, you can't do that as a career. But I'm kind of in a position where I kind of can, like, I can pursue this. So I guess I'd just say keep writing, like, keep exploring, and just like, and it sounds a bit cheesy, but like keep your chin up, because you're gonna be, you're gonna be free of these kind of teenage years. You're gonna be, you're gonna be able to leave an all-girls school. You're gonna be able to be who you are. You're gonna be able to do all these things that you've never been allowed to do. But just keep curating your writing, and like just keep just keep your chin up, it does get better, and you've got it within yourself to help it get better.
Who are you passing the baton to? I like that. Keep your chin up, lad. I'm trying to go Yorkshire there. I don't know if I did a good job for you there, Barney. Who are you going to go to next?
Ro, would you like
Ro?
to? Yeah.
Ooh, I think the biggest thing would be to keep going, keep breaking those boundaries, and keep authentically being yourself. Growing up, I thought I had to be the one in skirts, the pretty girl, the one with the makeup, the one who shaves their legs. And I never did any of those things, didn't like any of that. And I got bullied and teased for it, and it was really hard. But I kept thinking to myself, you know what, if I conform to these boxes that they want to put me in, I'm not going to make the friends that I want to make. I'm not going to be the person that I should be. And I took that on to university. I studied environmental sciences, and I started off doing the hard sciences, so your maths, your chemistry, because I thought that's what I needed to do. That's what science looks like. And I went and did a placement year, and I did the hard science stuff that I thought I'm destined to do. And it was the worst experience of my life. It was boring. I didn't like it. I didn't really get it. And I thought, no, you know what? For my very final year of university, I need to keep going. I need to keep breaking those barriers. I need to be loud and authentically myself. So I switched to the soft sciences, and I use that to experiment with the things that I love. And being autistic, one of my favorite things in the world is roller coasters. So I am proud to say every piece of coursework I've done this year has been on roller coasters, Disney World, Alton Towers, you name it. I've probably looked into it. And my grades have jumped up by about 20% because of that. So that is some real life evidence that if you be yourself, they're going to
That is
love
crazy.
you. Yeah.
That is
Thank
mad.
you.
The secret is out.
So keep being loud.
I love it. Yes.
So I guess we're going to finish with Jacob then.
Right, so 13-year-old me, how do I describe them? Well, pretty sad because they were in the middle of being bullied. It was a very tough time. So I think the first thing I'd say to 13-year-old me would be, as Barney said, keep your chin up. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, because it does get better, it will get better, and you will come out of that whole thing being a better person for every terrible thing that's happened, for every awful comment's been made. For everything that's happened to you, it will get better. Yeah, like I said, my secondary school experience from year 7 to 9 wasn't the best. It got better slightly, but it wasn't fun. I won't lie. I really didn't enjoy my time in that school, and I have not a vendetta, but I don't like faith schools now. One of the reasons being because I went to one and I didn't have the best experience, although I know people who do. See, looking at role models in my course, I cannot think of any. I think I only chose to do my course midway through deciding what to apply for. I had set on another course I was going to do, and I was going to do that, and then halfway through year 12, I decided I wasn't going to do that, and I started looking for a new course. So I came across, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's so interesting. It does give me a lot of headaches. There's an awful lot of reading, and it's all very subjective, but it's really rewarding because it's so current, and I always have something to talk about. Whether they're doing sciences or English, there's always something political going on that I can bring some sort of expertise in. And I also like the fact that I'm doing a language that I have some sort of extra thing that just makes more interesting. But yeah, no, I think I'm looking forward to seeing where I can take this and how I can intertwine this with who I am and how I identify, take it to new levels and being who I want to be. I think if I look back at 30-year-old me, I'd be pretty damn proud of how far I've come and who I am now compared to the person I was, and how much I've done, to be fair, like in terms of exploring the stuff. If I look at a timeline, like I'd be down right. You can't see because my camera's not working, but how I'm like below. I'm sitting at my desk. My hand for like 30-year-old me is way below desk, and I'm right above my head for how I am now. So it's been an interesting journey, full of ups and downs, but pretty decent. So yeah, just keep your chin up, and it will get better.
I think it's a perfect sentiment to end on, isn't it? About pride, because what are we doing this project? We're doing it in Pride Month. And I have to say, Esther, to finish off that, I am very, very proud of these 4 individuals. I'm proud of everybody, not just because of, I'm in the LGBTQ community myself, but as a member of staff at the UEA, as someone who works with young children and young adults, I'm proud of you all. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and supporting this project, and to talk to my lovely friend Esther. And Esther, thank you so much for platforming all of these young people.
That was so lovely, and you're all such awesome humans, and it's just such a journey, isn't it, to self-discovery and like becoming who you're meant to be. And wow, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And like you all say, it's not without its struggles, but it sounds just really rewarding and yeah, beautiful. Thank you all so much. That was so great. I now want to go to university again.
Go and find yourself once more.
Oh yes. That never ends, by the way.
Always rediscovering ourselves.
Yeah.
So everybody, just remember, do keep tabs on the Take Your Pride HE hashtag, and we're part of the a collaborative group called NEACO, and we have our website, which is takeyourplace.ac.uk. And you just go on there and you can search for Pride and Higher Aspirations on their resources page. And yeah, just if you go on Twitter, YouTube or Instagram and you search for the hashtag TakeYourPrideHE, you will find all of this wonderful stuff, stories, videos, and come the 17th of June, as you're all listening to it now, this amazing podcast episode.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. And Esther, thank you again. And no doubt I'll be back to annoy you once more.
You can find out more details on the website at 50shadesofgender.com/higher-education, where you can also read the transcript, and you can find out more about the NEACO Pride in Higher Aspirations project on neaco.ac.uk. Thank you for listening to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. You can find us online at 50shadesofgender.com and on social media. If you'd like to support us, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Plans start from only $1 a month. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender for more details. We hope you will listen again. Until then, stay curious and open-minded.